What is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here, bringing you my review for A Quiet Place. Now, the plot basically follows a family, with the parents being played by Emily Blunt and John Krasinski, as they must live life in silence as they are hiding from creatures that hunt by sound who have wiped out a huge chunk of humanity. Going into this movie, I had mild expectations. The main reason for this, I am not the biggest fan of horror movies. In fact, the first trailer that dropped for this film didn't impress me that much. But my interest for this film has been slowly growing within the past month, ever since I heard this movie get rave reviews out of the South by Southwest Film Festival where it premiered. Plus, this movie is starring, co-written, and directed by John Krasinski, who I love as Jim from The Office, and is also co-starring his real-life wife, Emily Blunt, with a concept that could bring some uniqueness to the horror genre. Starting out with the cast and their performances, we have Emily Blunt and John Krasinski as the parents of the film. One would think that since they're married in real life, I absolutely love them together, one would think that they have great chemistry with one another. And sure enough, when they have scenes together, they have kinetic energy together, even if they have to downplay it because they have to remain quiet and or silent at all times. Now, with them individually, Blunt is incredible in this film. She is pregnant throughout a great duration of the movie, so when push comes to shove and she actually gives birth, she has this one sequence that has a lot of reserved emotion, but also incredible tenacity just on her face. Likewise, John Krasinski also gives an outstanding performance as the patriarch of the family who wants to do anything and everything he can to keep his loved ones safe. We also have the child actors in the film. Noah Jupe, who I previously remembered playing Jack Will in Wonder. He did a great job in this movie, and in A Quiet Place as the son, he also does a stellar job. We also have Millicent Simmons as the elder daughter of the movie, and she is deaf in this film. In real life, Simmons also happens to be deaf herself. I really appreciated the fact that Krasinski sought out to find an actress who is actually deaf to play this part. I previously saw Simmons in her revelatory performance in Wonderstruck, and in A Quiet Place, she is also excellent. Simmons' performance is also noteworthy to me, not necessarily because she is and plays deaf, but also for her character growing into a teenager and becoming rebellious at a certain point in the movie, giving her more intrigue. She even has a cochlear implant in the film, which is an attempt to try and help her hear. Her father even tries to help her make a hearing aid so that she is able to make sense of this world where she already has to become quiet/silent to survive. Now, I can relate to that fact because Simmons' character has to deal with the feedback coming from this hearing aid, and for my own experience, I know I had to get used to the feedback coming from my Baja when I first got it. So when it comes to the performances all around in this movie, they are exceptional. The writing in this film definitely sets up a situation where we are just dropped in head first and seeing it go as it happens. This movie begins about a few months after these creatures start wiping out a huge chunk of humanity, as I've mentioned earlier. We don't see how these creatures first emerged. We are just faced with this family who have already gotten used to living like this, but then it fast forwards about a little over a year later, in which Blunt's character is now pregnant, and one would think, why would her character be pregnant in such a desolate landscape? But the first 5 minutes of the movie are pivotal in us implying why she is this way, or that is just how the circumstances have unfolded for her and her family. Throughout the film, we see the day-to-day routines that this family does in order to avoid getting picked off by one of these creatures, and the creatures themselves, they are blind, yet they have extremely sensitive hearing and can hear basically even like the subtle sound of like something cracking, and yeah, you're dead at that point. The family, though, they have gotten used to soundproofing where they live. They communicate using American Sign Language, or ASL, and they've already gotten used to that because, of course, the elder daughter, played by Simmons, is deaf. So that's an interesting angle that this movie takes in order to get us immersed into what this family is going through. With that angle too, since this family mainly communicates using American Sign Language, there is little dialogue at all in this film. That did remind me of Dunkirk from last year, one of my favorite films of 2017, where there is minimal dialogue used in this film as well. I think that there were several dozen pages of lines in this movie, but in A Quiet Place, there is way less. If I were to guess, I would say that there are about 100 lines or less of spoken words used in the film, which that just added more to the investment I had with the film. And with Krasinski's direction, not only with his contributions to the script, but the focus that he has behind the camera in guiding scenes where little to no talking is used, it's something that is focused in where I was never bored. I was interested in the family dynamic that these characters had with each other, and I grew to quickly sympathize with their situation, and I wanted them to make it out alive. I also thought that Krasinski, directing-wise, handled the horror aspects of the film extremely well. The only previous directorial efforts I've been exposed to from Krasinski are the episodes of The Office that he directed, and for someone who comes from a background of comedy, he has a knack for creating a lot of tense and terrifying atmosphere. With the jump scares and everything like that that are used in the film, they are not cheap. I felt that some of the jump scares that did get me were effective. I was feeling spooked and creeped out throughout certain moments of the film, and this is a testament to what Krasinski is able to create. The technical merits of this movie surely have to be noted as well, mainly the sound design, as it is used to a T where it comes up at just the right moment to either get our senses heightened, our blood pumping throughout our body, or feel at ease in some of the more tender moments that we have between characters. Even in certain moments, we are put into the perspective of Simmons' character, where the sound around her is muffled to simulate the aura of feeling completely deaf, and I thought that was such a nice touch to put in. The use of music as well. The original score had some great moments where they heightened up the intensity, having you be frightened or just feel the emotional gravity of the situation that this family is going through. The movie is also shot well, having some lush cinematography throughout, and is paced really tightly at about an hour and 30 minutes, so it is a quick watch, but I never felt the running time drag or speed up too fast in any moment. The only issue I would say I have with this film comes down to something that other horror movies in the past have used, and it's that they rely on coincidences at some moments so that characters are able to do this or do that, or have me ask myself, why didn't this happen earlier, or why didn't this character do this? It's something that just happened in certain points that made me go, oh, okay, but the more thought you would put into something like this, yeah, you're gonna see that these characters are not perfect, but they were never intended to be perfect in the first place. They are just trying to survive, and that is the main thing we are trying to view. And from how we even see this movie overall, it is good old-fashioned filmmaking that creates horror in the most positive sense possible, where we are in it for the long run, and then by the end, some people may interpret the final moment or even the final shot of the movie to be cheesy, but I thought it was fitting, especially after the climax. All in all, this movie is a terrific example of horror at its most original and effective, as despite it being dour in its nature, it's hardly ever an upper. The thrills it does create does leave for some supremely entertaining. Make sure to see this movie with the right audience though, as I saw this movie this morning at 11:10 a.m., hoping to try to avoid some rowdy audience members so that I can get fully immersed into a film like this, and my unlucky self heard a baby, or at least a young child, in the front left of me, and I was like, ugh. Every other minute I heard this kid make noises or babbling sounds. Ugh. That little tidbit, though, did not stop me from loving A Quiet Place. John Krasinski has a bright future ahead of him as a filmmaker, and speaking of actors who have had a comedic background and have ventured into directing, Jordan Peele also did the same thing last year with Get Out. I loved that movie. He just just won the Best Original Screenplay Oscar for writing this film as well. And yes, you probably know where I'm going with this. Get Out was one of my favorite movies of 2017, and so far, A Quiet Place is one of my favorite movies of 2018 thus far. I love this movie once again. I highly recommend it. My final verdict for A Quiet Place is 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of A Quiet Place, social media links in the description, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.